So, a very intelligent parking lot attendant once said to me, whether we like it or not, this is happening. I'll tell you that story here coming up in just a minute. This episode, we're going to be talking about Peter Brötzmann, the album Machine Gun. It was released on the FMP label on LP and CD. It was recorded May of 1968. Drew, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Good.
I know that the book showed FMP as the record label. When it first came out, it was on the Bro label, BRO, and so
Okay.
I was kind of curious about how that listed, and I got into it. But my week has been pretty good. There's been a lot of additional music through my ear holes, and I'm learning to hear myself play. So I'm kind of singing along in the back of my head to the solos. So it's been a fun week of education and work and play and all kinds of things. Temperatures dropping, and we'll see 35 tomorrow night. I know that's not cold for y'all, but I think when the temperature drops here, Sarah's in Detroit this week. It's supposed to drop to like 16. So I'm guessing y'all got some cold weather coming too. So
Yeah.
what
Yep.
about you, man? How you been?
You know what? It's been a left-right week. I've been on the left side of music, on the right side of music, just kind of all over the place for me musically. The artists on our personal journey, you can't get enough of that. The artists that we're going to talk about tonight,
Don't want to
I
listen to it at all?
don't want to listen to it at all. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, and then picking some of my favorites to listen to throughout the week and rehashing some of the ones on our list that we've covered so far. Man, I'll tell you what. Besides tonight's artist, it's been a great week of being able to venture out and re-listen to some of the stuff that we've done. So,
Yeah.
and some new stuff as well.
Where did y'all end up this week?
What do you mean?
When I start to get text messages from your wife in the middle of the day or in the evening, I'm thinking y'all are out doing something fun.
Okay, all right. So we took a trip down to Carmel, Indiana, with some friends of ours. There was a German Christmas festival. It's the German spelling, in Carmel. Carmel's a very upscale area, much like where you're from. And so they do this really cool, and it's the actual number one. I wish I remembered the exact name of it. The German Christoph Holzen Festival or whatever. It's the number one in the nation. There's other cities that do it, but the Carmel one is the number one. It was a beautiful day outside. It was, a balmy 38 degrees, and the sky was blue. So we weren't cold for much of the day. As the sun started to set, it started to get cool. Anyways, we're walking around down there in the Palladium, which is a concert venue down there. That's why I texted you. As soon as Kendra walked around and saw the concert listing, and she's like, "Matt, get over here quick." So I quickly walked around, and she pointed it out to me, and I got all giddy, and I felt the warmth in my belly, and she's like, "I'm going to get you that for Christmas." So I may be getting a ticket to go down to the Palladium and see the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis. I told Dad today it's going to be a tough choice because Brad Maldal is also coming.
Yep.
Close, somewhat close. But if I had my choice, I'm going to go see Wynton. And the Lincoln.
I would expect nothing less.
Yeah, yeah. So I got all giddy, and then I left my phone in the car when we went to dinner. Of course, Kendra's on her MRC diet, and so the couple that we were with, she's got a limited diet that she can eat. So we picked Torchy's Tacos.
Yeah, boy.
And I said, you got to take a picture and send it to Drew that we were here at Torchy's. So, yeah,
I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I had the Jamaican jerk tacos.
Ooh,
I forget.
yes.
It was the one right under the trailer
Trailer park. Yeah.
trailer park, whatever it is. It was right a couple under that, but oh my goodness, amazing jerk chicken tacos. So yeah, it was interesting. So I
Yeah,
again not
for everybody out there that's got a Torchy's nearby, you understand that Torchy's Taco is a good place to get a taco and just have some family time. For those of you who don't have Torchy's, sorry about your luck.
well, and the funny part was is they had never heard of Torchies, and we told them, the whole story of coming to Texas and having Torchies with you guys, and how cool it was, and so they had a cool experience while they were there too.
Good,
So
good.
yeah, for sure,
That's
for sure.
awesome, man. That is
We weren't
awesome.
trying to rub it in. We were just trying to show you
Nope.
where we were at.
I didn't take it as rubbing it in. I never do. I mean,
Okay, good.
even if it is going to be when you take pictures at the Lincoln Jazz with Winton, but I'll get over that because
Well,
now it's the challenge to me. I've got to find those concerts and I've got to make it more mandatory in my life to go check those out. And if all works well, tomorrow night Lily and I are going to be at El Mercado in Austin, the South Side, and this comes out 10 days after the fact, so y'all will miss out. Sax Extravaganza. It's at the Ernie DeWawa Tuesday night. And so there'll be 8 saxophones blowing horns and having fun. And Joe Morales is one of those that we hope is there. He's trying to keep the flu away from him. So he may not make it, which I still think it'd be fun to go check out. But live music, man, after talking with Lady D about it, it reminds you how important it is for the crowds, for the people, and just personally for the enjoyment of hearing performers do their thing. Talented people, if you're going to be up on stage. So
right. And the guy that she plays blues with, G Money, he always makes it a point on Monday nights to say, "This is live, where there's no backing tracks. What you hear is what we're doing up here." So that's another important fact too, is when you, especially when you go see a jazz concert, that it's happening. It's live.
Did you?
Unlike some others that use backing tracks.
Yep. Bed tracks. Did you ever think about it as a performance when you were either marching or a symphony, big band, jazz band in the military? Did you ever look at it as a performance, or was it just the job?
It was kind of just a job for me, believe it or not. And, I tended not to get nervous when it was a bigger group because, the eyes aren't on you specifically unless you have a solo or something. But in the big group, as long as I played my part and I played it as loud as he wanted or as soft as he wanted at the right tempo that he wanted, I was pretty happy of just kind of getting the job done.
Because it was all so rehearsed, you knew how loud or soft.
Correct.
And unlike today, when you're out on stage, if you're a 5-man, 10 person group, it counts when you're up there. You don't get to blend in with 20 other musicians. Right. Did you ever get nervous blowing taps?
I recall the first couple of times only because I didn't know the procedure. And so I had to rely on the lieutenant or the captain who was with us in charge of the detail. The first 1 or 2, 3 times, it really hit me. I was nervous, didn't know what to expect. But after 50 or 60 times, I basically told the lieutenant or the captain, "Look, man, I'm going to go stand over there because that's the best location. I know your cues. I know when to come in. You don't have to cue me. Just you guys do your thing. Let me do my thing, and then we'll ride home and be done." So I chuckle that I've made more women cry than I care to think of, but it's a sad time, and I did make a lot of people cry, obviously, at a funeral. But the first couple of times it really hits you, and then after that, you kind of shut your brain off. Say, just get it done, get it perfect, because this is the last thing that they're going to remember about the service or whatever. So nervous when you're by yourself for sure, especially jazz band solos. Man, I would get all flustered, and my brain would kind of just shut off or blink or whatever. It's my turn to play. Oh my gosh, I gotta go. And so
the reason that comes up is last night when we're doing some of our playing. It's Sunday night. We're all there to learn. But a couple of the heads, nobody knew. These are songs that we've done with vocalists, and so we play our riffs, and that's it. And all of a sudden, we've got our intern in last night. He said, "All right, everybody's going to do the head now." And I'm the only our lead trumpeter wasn't there. So I'm the only one playing. And I'm looking around the room like, oh crap. I mean, other than the guitarist and the drummer, I'm it. And that moment of, oh crap, I'm going to screw this up. It actually makes it harder to play when you know that you're going to screw it up. And I got to the point where it was just all right. If y'all can't tell by now, we're really hesitant about talking about Peter Brötzmann, Machine Gun. We'll dialogue all night about something other than this album. But speaking of blending in or soloing, I don't know that you can hear any of it, blending in or soloing on Peter Brötzmann's Machine Gun. So do you want to give them an idea of the album as we start talking about it? I'm going to put the actual, this week's slide up.
Okay.
So
you want to do
cover of it?
You want to do the slides, or do you want to?
I just want to give them a heads up before we get into the slides. So
Okay.
I think what's important is we've been delaying this now 10 minutes, and it's important. One of the things that I experienced last week with John Coltrane's Ascension album is that for the first time I started to hear the free jazz. There are some structures, there are some elements that would be key. Peter Brötzmann, I don't think that was ever there. There wasn't anything rhythmic. Machine Gun came out in 1968, as I said earlier, on the Bro label. A year later, it was FMP, or at the end of that year, it was released as FMP label. Then in 1991, it was re-released with 2 additional takes. This album is 37 minutes with 3 songs. Machine Gun, Responsible, and I didn't write the whole thing down, and then Music for Hans Bennink. Those are the 3 songs. Third take, Machine Gun. Second take, Responsible. And the only take for Music for Hans Bennink. In the 1991 release, it was an hour long, and it had take 1 and take 2 of Machine Gun, take 1 and take 3 of Responsible, and then the original Music for Hans Bennink. And then later, in I think it was 01, it was re-released with all of the takes, and it included a live performance which had a different musician on it. It's important to say that, 91 and 07. It was an hour and 1 long in 91, and it was an hour and 20 minutes long in 2007. This 30-minute album was enough to make me yank my hair out. Now, if we really unwind, and I want to put up the musicians, here is what the album looks like. This is Peter Brötzmann, Octet. Machine Gun is the album. And I'm going to put up the personnel on this. I'm not even going to pretend to read all of their names, but you can look at them here. Yep. You'll see that Gerald Dudek is on the tenor on the Machine Gun Live. This was all produced by Peter Brötzmann, who played the tenor and the baritone saxophones probably at the same time. But this is the album, Machine Gun. From a European market, this was fresh and new. And I'll have the question after the slideshow, but I do have a special guest with the question.
Okay, good. And I think that we spare the audience from clips this evening, unless you had something specific. I did not pick out any clips.
I do have a clip that I wanted included, so we'll do. You want to do that before the slideshow then, or let's
sure?
Do it?
You know what? Yeah, let's do a clip before the slideshow just to give the listeners an idea of Brötzmann.
Okay, so in the first song, in the main song, Machine Gun, after the first minute, the music begins to chill out a little bit, and then you start to hear some repetition of the saxophones and the horns coming in. At about the 8-minute mark, 5 to 8 minutes, I wrote down that the tension is building. There's extreme unrest. And the most subtle part of the whole song starts at 8 minutes. So I want to go from there, and it's the two basses running their bows across their bass guitar. So at 8 minutes, 8 to 9, this is probably the chillest. But if you would, 30 seconds of the beginning of Machine Gun. So we'll start with 30 seconds, the first 30, the opening of Machine Gun, just to put an idea out there. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, you remember how he got his name, right? This happens, and it'll come up in the slideshow here in just a minute, but this happens to be a nickname for him, is Machine Gun. So based on that clip, you can understand maybe why.
Now, after that, let's listen to these bass guitars run the bows across there. Here we go. Yeah, so very, very chill. I think in the 37 minutes of this album, that's probably the most rest that you'll find in the album. And so that's a taste of what you're in for. If that 1 minute from 8 to 9 is the calmest and only part of that whole CD that's mellow, that first 30 seconds is a good wake-up call to what you're in for.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I spent time, as you get ready to get the slideshow ready, I spent time on Sunday morning just chilling and trying to listen for what makes this so unique. And so I did I wrote down every minute, every second of what the songs were, what I thought about it, what was going on. It was, I won't say torture, it was tough for me again to listen to this. So, slideshow. Let's
okay. Let's talk about him for a minute. So, on the very first slide, of course, it's the same as it always is. Whatever you do, do it to jazz. And this week, it was a little harder to do, but Peter Brötzmann, Machine Gun is the album. On the next slide, you see the album cover, and you've already put the cover up, so this is the second time they're seeing it. But the cover, to me, is kind of it doesn't represent the album, the music. I would think with Machine Gun, it would be more graphic, more dirty, more violent, I guess, should I say. This is kind of subdued with him behind the machine gun and just an orange outline. I don't know. It's just kind of plain for me. Like, sometimes I pick music based on the artwork of the CD. This week, it happened to me this week. I was listening to a new artist and I pulled up an album based on the cover art. And if I'd have pulled up Machine Gun based on the cover art and heard what I heard, I might have punched myself in the face. But okay, moving on to the next slide. The pictures that I picked this week, Peter is kind of a almost a brash looking individual anyways. I can see his attitude in all three of the pictures that I picked this week. The top picture is a color picture, him looking down. It looks like he's in a I don't want to say missile silo, but he's in a concrete room with his sax looking down, kind of got a smirk or a smug look on his face. The lower left, he's holding a Barry clarinet. Excuse me. Is it a Barry clarinet? Bass clarinet.
Bass clarinet.
Bass clarinet, yeah. I love his beard and his mustache, the big bushy mustache that he's got in that picture.
Oh, yeah.
It's super cool, just super cool. And then on the bottom right picture, again, it's a black and white picture, him just kind of wailing on the sax. It looks like there's a little bit of movement in the sax. It just reminds me of something that you would take a picture of, Drew. So, excuse me, please cut that out. There, cut that out. So yeah, it just reminds me of something that you would do. The art, the pictures that I chose this week. What do you think? Did you like them? Did you not?
I did dig those pictures. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the next slide. The term, the jazz lingo for the day. The term that I picked this week, I couldn't pick anything else besides free jazz. So that's the term this week, free jazz. Free jazz is a kind of jazz that tried to break from the old traditions of jazz and create something entirely new. The freedom to experiment with your own creative impulses led to the birth of a new kind of art form called free jazz. So I know we talked about it in Ascension last week. We've talked about who else? I don't think we've done many other the Art Ensemble of Chicago was more on the free side. It was still avant-garde, still a little more reserved than the European free jazz that we're listening to this week. So I picked free jazz this week as my lingo for the day.
I think it's rather important that we look at that word free jazz and understand what it is. Breaking down those chains, the freedom to experiment with creative impulses and shaking things up. That's really what it was.
Well, and believe it or not, it's coming up in the slideshow, but Peter was groundbreaking for free jazz in Europe. So it was something brand new for the European jazz scene anyways. And it wasn't new for the American jazz scene at this time, but for the European jazz scene, they hadn't heard too much free jazz. And so his was groundbreaking. So let's go to the next slide where you can get it. This week's album can be found on YouTube, LP, and CD. And that's I had to do my listening on YouTube this week. It's funny because when we did this on our personal journey, it was on iTunes and it was on YouTube Music.
And right above Matt's head, right now there's going to be a link to the Unconnoisseur's YouTube channel with the original 37-minute album and then a playlist at the end for the 1991 reissue. So we do have those on the Unconnoisseur YouTube channel, so you can hit that link. They'll also be in the description below so that you can go check out the original 37-minute, 3 songs, and then the 1991 101-minute long 5-song.
Yep, absolutely. So YouTube, LP, and CD. I put a quote on the bottom of that slide by Peter. We were just starting to get over the borders of the old jazz music. We had to break all of the rules, and based on the lingo, they were breaking all the rules anyways. So getting over that old style, you have to do the ABAA section, you have to do solos, you have to keep it under 5-6 minutes. They just wanted to break the mold and do something else. You look like you're deep in thought.
I kind of am. I love that quote. I saw that earlier when I was putting it into the system here. But it was more than just the AABA. It was tonality and rhythm. They wanted to smash everything kind of just to make a point of breaking the rules. And what I found interesting, I was starting a new book today because I finished hanging out with Clark Terry. And I kind of wanted to cry when the book ended. just because I was done. I've dragged this book out for 2 months. But I started a new book, and it starts with some conversation about Kamasi Washington, shaking up the rules. And they specific about epic, changing of the guard. Do we have to go this far to break the borders and the molds of jazz? And Brötzmann took free jazz to a very different level, and so did most of the free jazz players, Albert Ayler, Cecil Taylor, Eric Dolphy, Sun Ra. They all pushed the boundaries, but isn't that what art is? Avant-garde pushing the boundaries. And so what he did wasn't just break the rules. He
burned the rule book.
He burned the rule book. I wonder if he ever read a rule book to burn it to begin with. No offense, Peter, but what the hell? Right. So let's continue because.
All right, yeah. Let's move on to the information slide, and then I got a quick little short that I didn't put in the known for. I should have, but Peter was born in 1941. He passed away in 2023, which made him 82 years old. And that was in July of 2023. So really not that long ago.
No.
The influences that I read about were Sidney Bechet, Miles Davis, and John Coltrane. Those were some of the influences that he had listed on the wiki site. It's funny because later on the last slide you'll see some more names, but yeah, he picked those as his influences. So if Miles Davis is your influence, don't you think you'd kind of play like Miles? And I don't know. I'm just posing a question, but the quote that I put here, I was chuckling to myself. Peter said, "I never had a teacher."
Yep.
I don't think Peter had a mother that spanked his bottom either, because he didn't follow any rules.
Oh, the wooden spoons.
Oh yeah. Oh, broken wooden spoons. Okay, so I did make a mistake. The discography, I didn't count his discography. I did an AI search and it told me 119. That may be true for studio and live and sidemen, but I did another AI search today and he's only got 50 studio albums. So the 119, if they're all like Machine Gun or in the same similar range, that's probably 118 CDs that I won't listen to. I'm just saying.
I was looking at the Discog. I think it's probably a total that he's performed on of 119.
Okay,
and that's Sidemen, live, and studio. But yeah, that's 118 other albums. And before we move on to the known about, did you at all care to dig after listening to the first album, either last year when we first did it or this year?
I did. I played a couple of other albums just because some of the names caught my attention. Okay, he's got a twisted sense of humor. So the F Word, De Boer. He's got an album called Nipples. He's got an album. What the F do you want? It's, again, sometimes I choose my music based on the art cover or the name of the CD, and so those are a couple of ones that I tried to squirrel on, and that squirrel ran into a brush fire and then turned around and ran away immediately. So, genre that's listed for Peter is free jazz, European free jazz, avant-garde, and free improvisation. Now, I didn't look free improvisation up. It's a form of free jazz, and I'm pretty sure that's pretty much what Machine Gun is. It's just free improvisation. There's no music. There's literally eight people standing there kind of just doing, I think, whatever they want. You said that you listened to take 1 and take 2 of Machine Gun.
Yes.
And did you hear anything different? Could you tell anything different between take 1 and take 2? Did he play a C sharp instead of a C natural in a note?
No, but like Ascension last week, because I spent the time to listen so it's take 3 on the original album and it's take 1 and 2 on the additional. It's almost as if he walked in with some general principles and said, this is what we're going to do, and let's go. And so there's an element I know that she's busy now. Mom's calling.
Oh.
So the question that I got asked on the way home, because we did listen to the first 8 minutes, and then we put on Ascension to calm down.
Yeah.
She and I talked about it, and she said, how did it make a 100 list?
Mm-hmm.
So my daughter asked that question. How did it make to 100? And how does it rank even better than Coltrane or some of the stuff to come? First, how did it make the list? Why is it on the list?
All right. I don't have an answer for that, but in 99, okay, and I will tell you, he's got a very narrow window here. In 99, he made the list at number 47. We're talking about number 53 this week on the 2022 list. So 47 in 2006, he was up at 60. So, a couple episodes ago for us would have been episode 60.
He's right in the middle of the pack.
But he's right in the middle of the pack. Mom asked the same question when I was talking to her today. How did he make the list? Now, he was a groundbreaker. He was motivated to make a change. I kept thinking to myself, maybe it's the generation or the music that I grew up on didn't steer me towards that style of music anyways.
Right.
So if I'd have been born in a different decade, I may have appreciated him more.
Maybe. So I want to go back to this, and then I'll swing back to that born in a different decade. There were some similarities. So much like the Coltrane album, there was some consistency between the songs. And yes, can you really tell in noteworthiness? No. Rhythm worthiness? No. Tone? It wasn't a tone like the right keys or the right harmonizing tone, but you can feel the energy between the artists, and that's to me what the difference was between take 1 and 2 and take 3 on Machine Gun. Now, I wouldn't go back into the other song Responsible, and I wish I wrote Responsible for what, because it's a whole title, and I want to do it justice.
Okay, here, I got it. I can read it. It is Responsible for Jan van de...
Yes.
Jan van de Ven.
Yes, that's it. So I didn't get into those other takes, and of course, Music for Han Bennink, which was the third song, that was the same on all of the albums. And I didn't get into listening to the live version. I can imagine what that would have been. There were some similarities. Now, born in a different decade, would this have made sense if we were jazz followers in 68? The question that I had, when I keep coming up to free jazz, there was an element of jazz music as an American cultural music, as black classical music, as an American music. Free jazz also had some representations about what was going on historically in the 60s. And we're talking about the civil rights movement, the mid-60s and late... Sorry.
Correct, but we're also talking about Europe.
And that's what I was going to say. When you're dealing with stuff in the U.S., there's some freedom. There's some desire for change, and I want to voice my opinion. But Peter Brötzmann was European.
Right.
And so was there the same drive or personal desires for cultural breakouts for this avant-garde free music, or was it more about just the boundaries of jazz, stuff that he grew up listening to from the 20s, 30s, 40s, the war music and the V-discs that were available, and he said, man, all this stuff's starting to sound like the same stuff. We got to break the molds a little bit. And to me, that's... I was born in the wrong decade and on the wrong continent if I'm trying to understand where Brötzmann's coming from.
Yeah.
But jazz is jazz. Let's break the boundaries. And that's where I was going with the new book. Kamazi's doing that, but from a different standpoint, with a reverence for what has made jazz music. And as an art form, let's open up the doors and vent it out a little bit. And that's what Nate Chinnon is starting with. And this is Plain Changes is the new book I'm starting today. There's always room for growth. But there's an element of where did we grow from? Where did jazz come from? And that's this journey to me. We bixed. We bixed it. Now we understand Jelly Roll. Now we've been to Richmond together. We understand where the cradle of recorded jazz was and where it all began in New Orleans. You got to go hang out at Louis Armstrong Park and hopefully get to hear Wynton play. So there's some of that that's there, and breaking free is one thing. But this shattered my eardrums. It wasn't breaking free.
Well, it could have been a way to vent anger, okay, for them to blow off steam so that, again, you think of it all starting to sound the same, so let's do something completely the 100% opposite, the complete 180-degree opposite of what's been done. And that's, to me, kind of what Machine Gun is. Let me finish the known for in the 6 degrees. Music composer and band leader. He was the most influential person in the European free jazz movement. In the 1980s, his music was influenced by heavy metal and noise rock. Now, I'm a soft heavy metal fan, but I don't think I've ever heard any noise rock, so I can't speak on noise rock. Metallica, Van Halen, Rat, okay. Let's face it. I was a fan of their music, but I can't say that I've ever heard noise rock, so I can't speak on that. He did win the Lifetime Achievement Award in 1991. That was also the same year that he won the German Jazz Award. So we're missing something. We didn't fix it, but we're missing something somewhere. Machine Gun was also the nickname that trumpeter Don Cherry gave him. So Peter, that was his nickname, Machine Gun, given to him by someone that I respect, Don Cherry, who we just rabbit holed down a couple of weeks ago and found out about Don Cherry in the first place, and I've been listening to his music ever since. So I don't know. You could use Machine Gun, you could use baseball bat, you might use Wrecking Ball as a nickname for him. I don't know. 6 degrees this week. He played with Sonny Chirac on What the F Do You Want in 2014. So Peter Brötzmann played with Sonny, and Sonny, of course, played with Miles. So I found that fairly interesting. Did you find any other?
I never did. No.
Okay.
So I'm blown away by that one.
Yeah. What the F Do You Want? And then, of course, the album title is all spelled out, so it is YouTube friendly here. But yeah. All right. Let's finish the slideshow with Today in Jazz History. Today is December the 18th. Band leader and arranger Fletcher Henderson was born in 1897 in Cuthbert, Georgia. So Fletcher Henderson.
Shazam.
Yeah, 1897. And we haven't covered Fletcher yet. I sure hope he's coming up in the list, because we probably would understand a little bit more about the creation of jazz. 1897, let's see, in the 30s, he would have been already 40 years old anyways.
Yep.
So
I think he would have been in Lionel Hampton, Benny Goodman, Woody Herman.
Yeah.
I'll go back and look at some of those.
Yeah, for sure. So one final quote by Peter Brötzmann. Around age 11 or 12, I started listening to jazz music like Kid Ory and Armstrong, Bessie Smith, and King Oliver.
Yeah.
So you mentioned he heard it. It was all the same, and he wanted to change it. So that's what we got with Machine. So those were the names that I was referencing earlier in the episode about the more names coming up. So that's the slideshow for this week. Thanks for letting me do it.
I've got a couple of slides I've added in, just history-wise, because I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to flip this slide here. In 1968, a look into the year. In America, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. That was April 4th. I put in here, Vietnam War continues. It's a hotbed of protests from both sides. May 18th, Hot Wheels from Mattel. the Hot Wheels cars is introduced in the United States. Led Zeppelin makes their first live performance at Surrey University in England, and the Beatles' White Album is released. Now, I just put in here real quick a slide. Don Cherry, Eternal Rhythm album comes out in 68. Chick Corea, Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. Miles Davis, Feliz de Kilimanjaro, and Miles in the Sky. Our buddy Roland Kirk comes out with Left and Right. Roscoe Mitchell, Modern Jazz Quartet, Sun Ra. Y'all can look at those. But John Sermon. And Matt and I had talked about this album and both dug into it. Speak Like a Child from Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw those out. There was a lot of jazz music coming out that year of 68. A lot of stuff happening in the States as well. And I couldn't really get into a lot of European stuff. What's going on? Was it politically moved for Brötzmann or was it not? So most of it, I focused on the U.S. because that was where the hotbed of everything was at that moment. So
one final point I just want to talk about for just a few minutes was that he did have a slight feud with Jimmy Fallon, the late night talk show host. I don't know if you read anything about that.
No.
But Fallon does he does a what not to listen to segment on his show sometimes, and he picks some of the most random, goofiest groups, and he'll play a song from and he makes fun of it. Okay, and most of them are funny. You get a song that the guy counts 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4, and that's all he does, and so they make fun of it. Well, he made fun of Peter Brötzmann on the Nipples album, and Peter took serious offense to it, and they started a back and forth. Basically, Brötzmann called Fallon a stupid idiot, and why should I care what he says about me? So we're not here to make fun of Peter Brötzmann.
Nope.
I do want to rate the music, and in my note that I took this week, I appreciate that it's an art form, but I don't appreciate the art. If you're looking at a painting and all it is a black canvas with a red dot on it, I appreciate that it's an art form, but I don't know what you're saying with the red dot. If you're looking at a statue that is a wheel and a square and a triangle, and you're trying to tell a story with that, I appreciate that it's a statue and that it's your art.
Yeah.
I don't know the story that you're telling because I can't understand it. This is Brötzmann for me. I can understand that it's an art form. For me, as a complete unconnoisseur, I'm not getting his message.
It's definitely abstract, period. I'm sure there is a story to it. And that's what I was going to say yesterday morning when I got to sit down and really dig in and listen. I can appreciate that it is the art form that it is. It's not the art form for me. I don't know that I will ever need to turn this album on again, and it's not that I hated it. I just didn't appreciate it. As Lily said it, I don't hate it. I don't understand it, but I don't hate it.
Right.
I don't like it either. That was how we ended with it. But it's a personal preference. We have found ourselves in a rhythm that each week another album comes on, and we're in a way forced to listen to it. It's expanded our vocabulary of jazz music. It's expanded our vocabulary of music. And I mean, come on, Don Cherry, where'd he come from? It's expanded our knowledge of musicians who have strived to perpetuate jazz music, who have pushed it out there and continued the legacy of what jazz music is. So Don is one of those, and all the musicians that he's played with over the years. Mm-hmm. But because I didn't want to listen to the album, I spent time digging into Thad Jones. Completely off the beaten path here, but Speak Like a Child with Herbie. And I think that's maybe where you text me with his name or something similar to that.
Yeah.
More blues than the abstract truth. I mean,
darn.
Thad played with our man. So
Nelson, yeah.
And then he was with Basie from 54 to 63. So Thad Jones come out of nowhere. And then, of course, Ahmad Jamal.
Again, yes. Mm-hmm.
And that was
Same.
very different coming from a Brötzmann album to Ahmad Jamal. But then you sent Speak Like a Child from Herbie. And holy crap.
Yeah.
What a fun album. But my special find this week was a John Coltrane playing with Johnny Hartman.
Yes.
And when the song came on, I'm in the middle of a building a bike, and I'm like, man, Gregory Porter just hit my shuffle, baby. And I look down, I'm like, John Coltrane, and he didn't play with Gregory, so I had to open up my phone. John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman. Dude, Johnny Hartman's voice, it just brings tears.
You called him the OG.
OG. If we love Gregory Porter as much as we do, and Johnny Hartman has that voice from then, the baritone, the tenor, I forget what they referred to it, but it is a baritone voice. Oh, it makes my heart melt. Yeah. So, did you get into any other musicians this week?
I tell you, it's funny that you bring up Porter, because I had to kind of, this was a complete left turn for me, but this morning I was listening to Gregory while I was doing a few minor tasks around the house before I sat down and listened to Machine Gun again today. And so you want to talk about one extreme to the other.
Oh yeah.
You got butter and silk in your ears, and then all of a sudden you got shards of glass and hammers hanging on your ears. So, all right.
Tells us a lot about what our preferences are.
It does. It tells us.
And if Machine Gun is your preference, let us know. What did we miss? And please, with Peter Brötzmann, what did we not know? And this is an honest and sincere question. When I say this, please help me understand. Every day, I have an opportunity to understand jazz music, and I'm learning to. And I do love it. I may look back at Brötzmann in a year and change my score, but for today, I didn't get it. So if you guys are listening, gals are listening, if your people are listening and want to fill me in on what Peter Brötzmann really means and represents, please email us. Please drop us a comment below. Please help me.
Yeah, for sure. The same. And again, we laugh at ourselves on the score that we gave Bix Beiderbecke. I'm not sure we're gonna look back and say we petered it, because I'm ready to rate. Yep, I'll tell you my score. My score this week for Peter Brötzmann was a 3 out of 10. And unfortunately, that's the lowest score that we've given so far on 47 weeks.
And I'm at 3.5.
Yeah.
It may have met all of the criteria, but personally in my ears, it did not meet what I find enjoyable listening to jazz music. And Ascension was a great score, and I've changed my mind about that. Art Ensemble of Chicago, Phil changed our opinion when he said, what would it have been like to be there? Putting myself in those shoes at that time, representing, and going back to your comment about the decade. I was born in the wrong decade. Maybe I missed something.
Yeah.
Actually, you were born in the 60s. So.
No, I was not. I was not. I was born in the 70s. Okay, I was born in 1970, but
I guess you were halfway through the year. I was kind of pushing the boundary on that.
All right. So, do you have any last thoughts about the album?
Nope.
Or do you just want to move right into
next week's album?
All right. I've got my magazine ready. You want to do it, or you want me to do it?
I'll do it right now. I'm going to send the slide over. Woo! Next week, we're going to be digging into Coleman Hawkins. This is a retrospective collection from 1929 to 1963. This album was recorded, put together by RCA Bluebird on CD, and it features some of the most incredible musicians. Coleman Hawkins on tenor, Rex Stewart, Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Schaefer's, Fats Navarro, and Red Allen on trumpet, J.C. Higginbotham, J.J. Johnson on trombones, Benny Carter on tenor, clarinet, and alto sax.
I'm not sure. What is this?
What is the T?
T. Because TS is tenor sax. Yeah. T would be
clarinet, alto sax. I thought it was an F at first. I'm sorry. Then Sonny Rollins on tenor sax.
Maybe it is tenor sax. Maybe they missed the F.
Lionel Hampton on vibes, and then it says, and many others, covering almost 34 years of music.
Yeah. It's funny because I highlighted the names the week that we did it. Now, of course, Dizzy is a common jazz, well known. So we already knew about Dizzy Gillespie. Fats Navarro. We hadn't really dug into Fats a year ago when we did this on our personal journey. And so the more that you listen to Coleman Hawkins and Fats Navarro, and again, it's just the journey is a great part, because you rabbit hole, or you fall down these holes and you find out who Fats Navarro is, and you fall in love with a brand new jazz artist.
And I don't think it was until the week after that I realized who. If Fats Navarro was a Jedi Master, he would have been Yoda.
Uh-huh.
And everybody that came from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who was it?
Clifford Brown. And then from Clifford came Lee Morgan and Freddie Hubbard.
Freddie Hubbard.
So many came from the school of Fats Navarro. So, yeah. Welcome to trumpet players, baby.
Now, I will tell you that you may be able to find a retrospect on YouTube. And again, we didn't put up where you can find the slide yet this week, but it is on the Unconnoisseur website. I did purchase this CD. I ripped it. It is up there. There's no password to go to the Unconnoisseur and listen to the Coleman Hawkins.
And I'll put a slide up right now where you can find it. And then it'll be in the description below.
Perfect.
On the unconnoisseur.com.
All right. Well, it was a rough episode. And like I said at the beginning, whether we like it or not, it happened. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
And this will come out several days later. But on the 14th of December, it would mark the birthday of Clark Terry. As I finished his book and have a lot of respect for his playing, it reminds me to big shout out. Clark Terry was a mentor and a teacher to many trumpet players and musicians that came after, but 12/14/1920 he was born, and then passed February 21st of 2015. Lived a full life.
I did text you the TikTok of Mumbles, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, good.
So absolutely. Yeah, what a good episode. I'm glad we could dialogue about it. Dad said we would improvise, and we didn't say that at the beginning, but he is under the weather, but we did excuse him from this week's. Just 10 weeks, 12 weeks into jazz, it would be tough for a new listener, a true new listener, to dig into Peter Brötzmann and find any enjoyment in it. But we don't know. And I think this is the cool part. Somebody's going to listen to this album and be blown away. And I hope that they are. Don't let our rating, our personal feelings about it shape you one way or the other. Music is music. And if you're willing to put it out there, put it out there. Do what you feel like you're called to do. And as a musician, he did. So,
well, and again, the journey that we're on, the countdown, using the JazzWise magazine, we asked ourselves during the episode even how or why did it make the list? But we were forced into listening to it, and I'm glad we experienced it. I'm glad it's over and that I don't have to pick it again. So,
all right, to everybody, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, guys. See you next week.
You bet. You bet. You can go to the website, theunconnoisseur.com. Email us, theunconnoisseur@gmail.com. Matt's over on TikTok, so go send him some feeds. And then, again, you're on YouTube, so send us some likes, send us some subscribes. Make sure you hit that bell for stuff coming out. We'll have a couple of them coming out this week.